Hello. So today I wanted to share a little bit about my birth story, just because I feel that my experience may have been one that you typically don't hear about. I think, because I did not hear anything like that in the past, or at least while I was pregnant and preparing for birth. And I'm not sure if this video is going to be a little bit longer than 10 minutes because I mean it's deep, but maybe I'll be able to do it within 10 minutes. We'll see. So anyways, just that little disclaimer before I get started. My husband and I, we decided to go to a midwifery and do a natural birth. When I mean natural birth, I mean without a lot of let's say intervention, medical intervention. The idea to not to not birth with an epidural, to use a midwife in order to. Sorry, my baby's sleeping and she's moving around. Anyways, I think she's good. Okay. Anyway, so we're just going the natural way, okay? With a midwife, and not at the hospital, but in a birth center. We didn't feel confident enough to do a home birth or anything like that, but we were going to a birth center. So the pregnancy experience with the midwife was amazing. It was so empowering and educational. We've learned so much about how the body works, about how it's so natural for women to give birth, that even sometimes they even shared us a little bit of how the Western medicine is not the ideal way, how it's done in the hospitals is not the ideal way, how the epidural is like this drug that can also go into the baby and it's just horrible. And I did hear from a friend or a coworker, a colleague that she had back pain because of the epidural. And so it's like, no way I'm getting an epidural. And how, typically you're not supposed to be on your back. You're supposed to be, it's actually better to give birth either squatting or even standing up or on fours. But on your back is like the worst because no gravity or anything like that. But the reason why you give birth on your back at the hospitals is because you're numb from the legs down, or from the back, your abdomen down, like you're just numb, so you can't feel anything. And it's so interesting because we also learned how your body will naturally indicate you when it's time to push, right? Whenever you have an epidural, you can't feel that anymore because you're numb, right? They've numbed everything. They've numbed, like you can't feel the contractions or anything like that. And so typically at the hospital, they would tell you to start pushing a little bit too soon, and then that can create more tears, hemorrhoids, and all of these like horrible consequences because you're pushing for too long when your body wasn't ready yet. But in the natural way, you will feel like your body pushing and you can just join in, kind of like when you're puking and you can't control that feeling. Like it's like, this needs to come out. Same as down there, like your body just starts pushing, and it's just this natural thing. And we were just so excited about that, and I was amazed that like, wow, God's design is just so beautiful, and he just made everything perfect. And I'm just so excited, and I was so like just looking forward to joining in this natural process and just letting my body guide me and be connected to my own just to myself, to my body, to God, and be in surrender, and just had this expectation of this beautiful experience. And I've seen other people posting in Instagram or in YouTube their birth and doing it in the tub, and just breathing through, and I practice all of the breathing techniques, and how going through the contractions, you need to stay at peace, you need to stay calm. And I also love the idea of like, wow, like it's probably such a beautiful time to just be in communion and surrender to God. Like welcome peace through the Prince of Peace. Like, these are the different things that I was feeling before birth. And I was just so excited about it. I was nervous but excited at the same time because I just was ready to experience all of it. Yeah, when the time came though, the story was like, it unfolded completely different than what I was expecting. So I started having contractions on the evening of the 22nd of December. We went to our Christmas service, and during Christmas service, I started feeling some contractions, but it was manageable. But I knew, like, okay, these are different than the Braxton Hicks, like for sure, I can feel a difference, but it's all good. We came back home, the contractions started getting stronger and stronger. And so, yeah, I started doing just movements, stretching, bouncing on the ball, doing like what's it called? The Miles Briggs, is it called? I forget the names, and I just forget the names, where you make these positions and then like the side leg, whatever. Anyways, so I started doing all of these different things to help, and to help with the labor, to help with the contractions, and it started getting stronger and stronger and stronger, to the point that I was pretty much up all night. It was really hard, and I downloaded this little app to count my contractions. And the instructions that were given by the midwife is that our contractions needed to follow the 5-1-1 pattern, which means they need to be 5 minutes apart and be 1 minute long for a whole hour. That means that you most likely are dilated enough to go into the midwifery and probably go into the hospital already. So at the beginning, they were kind of like all over the place, but little by little, it did feel like, okay, they are starting to get this pattern. At least that's what my app was showing. And they were really strong. Let me tell you, they were strong. It was painful. And I started texting the midwife and telling her, I think she's coming. Like, I'm really starting to feel this now. And during those contractions, I would breathe through it. I just applied everything that I had learned. Breathe slowly, and then anyways, so I want to say by morning, like 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. or so, I show the screenshots of my contractions to the midwife, and she's like, okay, you can come in, let's check you. So we drove to the midwifery. The thing about the midwifery is it was like a 30-minute drive for us, the birthing center. And we came in, and the midwife, she kind of like measured me, and turns out I was only 2 centimeters dilated. And the rule there is that I had to be at least 4 to 5 centimeters dilated for me to be able to come in, because it could be hours from 0 to 5. It could be hours, even days, and it's apparently even like it could be weeks. I don't know. And she said, like, it's just too soon. And so I asked, like, I mean, but I have the pattern. Like, what should I be looking for then? And she's like, they just need to be a little bit stronger, the contractions. And some of them weren't 1 minute exactly. Some of them were like 50 seconds or something like that. So she thought they a little bit closer to a minute each. And I'm like, okay. So we just drove all the way back. I was having contractions all the way. I was in so much pain. And yeah, I guess just it's time to keep bearing it and keep experiencing these contractions until I guess they're stronger and they're 1 minute apart, 1 minute long, I guess, which I thought I already experienced, but oh well. So I kept having contractions all day long. They were getting harder and harder, stronger and stronger. But what happened is that sometimes they were like 10 minutes apart. Then sometimes they were 2 minutes apart. Then sometimes 5, then 2 again, and then 1. And sometimes they would last 40 seconds. Sometimes they would last 1. Sometimes they would last, I don't know, more than 1. Or they would be back to back, like literally. And when they're like that, apparently it's not even considered active labor. It's considered early labor or false labor. That's what I understand. So in theory, I wasn't in active labor, but looking back, I know I was in active labor. I was definitely in active labor, but my contractions were just all over the place. And I was like that all day long, all day long, all day long, all day. I barely was able to eat something because the pain was just unbearable. Turns out she was like sideways, so she wasn't like with her back. It wasn't fully back labor, but she was on their side. And so every time I had contractions, it was like her skull, like the hard part of her head would go against my bone, and so that makes the contractions even like stronger and more painful. So it was really painful throughout the day. And like I'm telling you, I was praying, I was worshiping, I was singing to God, I was listening to meditation, like praises and declarations and affirmations, and just doing everything in my power to get in the zone, okay? Everything in my power to get in the zone. But you know, it never arrived to that famous pattern, that 511. It never did. And I kept sending screenshots to the midwife, and she kept telling me, let's wait another hour. It doesn't look like it's there yet. Like, it doesn't seem like it. And she's like, did you just have contractions back to back? And I'm like, it seems like it. And she's like, that's weird. Or that last one lasts 2 minutes. And I said, yes. And she's like, well, that's weird. That usually doesn't happen. And it's like, it made me feel like, am I counting this wrong? Am I not what's the word, identifying the contractions appropriately? Am I doing this wrong? Like, I'm not sure. Like, I felt so lost. Honestly, I felt so lost. My husband had no clue what to do. I mean, honestly, looking back, I should have hired a doula. And if you're going to the natural way, honestly, hire a doula. And if you don't have money to hire a doula, don't go the natural way. That's just my takeaway. I was hoping to have a little bit more guidance, but anyways, that's a whole other story in itself. My thoughts in this whole holistic medicine thing, which I'm not against or opposed to, but I just have opinions. Then it was like, what, midnight again of the following day, right? And I didn't know what to do. The pain was unbearable. I was like begging God to please just help me and to have mercy. Like, I was really doing that. I got in a tub. Like, my husband would press on my back. Like, we did everything we're supposed to do. And it came to the point that I just couldn't take it anymore. And I told my husband, like, I just can't. I can't. It's been like, what, 30 hours or I don't know how long. And I just can't do this. I can't. Like, can you just take me to the hospital and just like let me have an epidural? Like, I felt so, I'm gonna cry, I'm sorry. I just felt, I guess I felt a little bit of shame that I felt like I was giving up, and that doesn't feel good, you know, because I really thought that I could do it, but it just was too long and it was too painful, and I had no light at the end of the tunnel, because the contractions never arrived to that 511 pattern that I was told I was supposed to achieve or arrive to. It never did. It was literally all over the place. And so after just thinking about it and talking about it, we ended up going to the hospital. I called the hospital. I asked them if they would take me, and they're like, sure, come. We can see if you're dilated enough to take you in. Someone will need to see you. And I'm like, okay. So I go in. The lady, the nurse, like checks me, and she tells me like, oh yeah, no, you're coming, you're coming in, like, you are 7 centimeters dilated. So I was way past that 4 to 5 centimeters dilated. I never had that 511 pattern, but I was 7 centimeters dilated. And we were like, I mean, what if I kept going and I never achieved this stupid pattern, like, and I'd not decided to go to the hospital? Like, what would have happened? Would I have ended up giving birth at home because the birth center wouldn't take me? Anyways, so yeah, it turns out I was 7 centimeters dilated, and they were like, we really thought that you were gonna come, because whenever you called, you were so calm and you were, you know, just talking normally. We really thought that you were probably like 3 or something, that you were too soon. So it's like, I was doing the mental practices, like I was doing a good job. Honestly, I was doing a good job at managing the pain. So much so that the people at the hospital did not expect me to be so dilated with me being so calm. Anyways, so they brought me in. They asked me if I wanted the epidural. I said, yes, I'll take the epidural. And so they put the epidural in, and then they tell me, okay, you just had a contraction. Did you feel anything? And I said, no, I didn't feel anything. And they're like, okay, then it's working. You just had another one. Did you feel anything? And I'm like, no, I didn't feel anything. And then I just start crying. I just start sobbing, because I just felt so much relief. I guess I just felt like I'm finally in a safe place. That's how I felt. I'm finally not alone. I'm finally having someone that I don't know, that heard me, that helped me. I guess, in a sense, I felt abandoned through the whole laboring stage. And just being there and having that relief and comfort was just so emotionally overwhelming, that yeah, I just broke down and just started crying. And then all of a sudden my pressure drops, and because I just immediately felt this relief, it seems like I went from 7 all the way to 9 centimeters dilated. And all the nurses started coming in, turning me all over the place. I don't know what was going on, but it was just crazy. Ben started crying because he didn't know what's going on. Then the nurse is like, don't worry, no, she's good. It's just like all of these things happen at the same time. Her pressure dropped, the baby pressure dropped, which is normal, but also she got suddenly hugely dilated. And anyways, I think then they gave me this peanut ball for me to get dilated all the way until 10. I didn't feel anything. I dilated, I think, a couple hours later, then pushed for like 40 minutes and gave birth to my little girl. And yeah, so it was vaginal delivery, but it wasn't like, you know, squatting and listening to my body and being in tune with everything and connected to nature and with the beautiful twinkle lights around the tub, like in this beautiful birthing center. Like, no, it was at the hospital. I had my epidural. I was on my back. I did not feel a thing. I tore. I developed hemorrhoids. And you know, it was not what I was expecting. It was, I mean, honestly, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for Western medicine. I'm not against or opposed to holistic medicine or anything like that. But like I said, I do have some opinions that I can share in a different video. But yeah, if anything, honestly, I felt grateful at the end of the day. I felt grateful for the hospital, the staff at the hospital. the epidural, and just Western medicine in general. I was just like so against it in a sense, like, oh yeah, they just want your money and they just want this and that. But I guess I kind of like reconciled a little bit, not reconciled, like, is that how you say reconcile? I think you do, with it, and you know, it's all good. But yeah, so anyways, I just thought to share, if for any reason maybe you've gone through a similar experience where you had certain expectations and things didn't go the way that you wanted to, like, there's no shame in that. You know, there's still beauty in that and things to be grateful for. Maybe it's just not the things that you were expecting to be grateful for. There's still things to be grateful for. And also, there's no shame. There's no shame. And if you're going through things and, you know, maybe it seems harder than you were expecting, or things are not unfolding the way you were hoping. I know I'm not the only person that was planning a natural birth that ended up in the hospital. And for some reason, I've heard that there's some shame in it whenever you have this desire of going natural or not taking the epidural, and then you end up taking it. There's a little bit of shame that people carry. There's no shame. There can be shame in that. Like, don't allow that to creep in, because you know what? You still birthed a baby. Your body still did that. You created a baby and grown a baby inside of you and nourished her to full term, and then you delivered her. Like, it's one of the biggest, most beautiful things that you're gonna ever do in your life. And don't let shame and guilt from expectations stain that, okay? Because at the end of the day, God's will is done, and God writes different stories. They're not all going to look the same, and God can use your story too, okay? Just how I'm hoping He's using mine. All right, so anyways, that's it for today. See, I did go way over 10 minutes, but yeah, that is all for today. And if you want, maybe share your birth story on the comments, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.